2017's re-adaptation of a Stephen King novel turned film, It is a far more horrific, more comical, and even gorier attempt than the original miniseries of the 90s, using its hard R rating to the fullest extent. 2017's It really captures the twisted spirit of the novel and will make modern-day fans fall in love with the Losers Club and fear for their lives every time they see a rogue clown in public. But with all the changes this film makes, the ending of It leaves several questions unanswered, the most obvious of which is, do we have a setup for an It 2? So before I go any further, keep in mind, everything from here on out contains major movie-ruining spoilers to It, as well as the novel, the 90s miniseries, and possibly even the It sequel, so you've been warned. So first and foremost, as an FYI to the few people not in the know, 2017's It is not a sequel to the miniseries. It's a modern adaptation with the same characters from the book, it's just that the film's time period has moved up for today's audiences. For example, when the Loser Clubs were kids in the novel and the miniseries, it took place in the late 50s, early 60s, and by the time they were adults, it was the mid-80s, early 90s. In this version of It, the Loser Club exists between 1988 to September 89, so when they become adult and It undoubtedly comes back, it will be 2016. But will It undoubtedly come back as Pennywise or possibly something else? What are all the clues the film gives us for a sequel? Is Henry Bowers dead after falling down the well? After all, he's an important character later on in the novel. And at the film's conclusion, as the credits roll and reveal this movie is in fact titled It Chapter 1, what news do we have and what can we expect for future chapters? So the story of It is about a group of outcast kids in Derry, Maine who band together to try to take down Pennywise the Dancing Clown, an evil being whose history of murder and violence dates back centuries. The town of Derry has had several incidents happen in its jurisdiction every 27 years like clockwork. All of the incidents happening along the path of the town's sewer system, making the self-proclaimed Loser Club come to the conclusion that this thing that's been terrorizing them is the same being that has terrorized Derry, Maine for hundreds of years, and hundreds more to come, so they have to be the ones to finally stop it. But what is It? Without going too spoilery, because I believe the second chapter will explain a lot of It, and I'll go into more detail about that in a second, It, in simple terms, is a being of no specific gender that landed on Earth millions of years ago, and every 27 years comes out to feed. It prefers the whole cat and mouse game to capturing its prey rather than just mindlessly killing everyone. It tries to target one person at a time, using specifically what they're afraid of before killing them. So the best way to overpower its clown form is to stick together with the team. So It is not just a creepy-ass clown. Pennywise the Dancing Clown is merely the main disguise for It, since it knows that children are easier to scare and it prefers the taste of what it calls frightened flesh. It needs to feed on people, otherwise the clown becomes weak, and then it returns back to its true form. So that explains why It disappears into the sewer after being defeated by the Losers Club, because they've made It weak so it has returned to its 27-year slumber. So I repeat, It is not dead. It has returned back to its true form, known as its dead lights. The bright orange lights within its eyes and mouth that Beverly Marsh got to see, putting her in a catatonic state. What's unclear is why Beverly was so easily taken out of her floating state by a kiss from Ben, when usually the dead lights also drive people insane. This could be because, unlike the other children exposed to the dead lights, she was not afraid of It, thus allowing her to not go insane, but still have her body be rendered useless and float like the rest of the kids. And as for being rendered useless, it seems that's the case for Henry Bowers when Mike throws him down the well. In the novels, after chasing the Loser Club in the sewers, he eventually gets lost and ends up washing out of the sewer, where he's found by law enforcement and falsely confesses for all the child's deaths in Derry. Which, even though he didn't do in this film, I wouldn't feel bad for him taking the blame. I mean, this idiot was literally going to carve his own name into Ben's stomach. That's some next level self-incrimination. So while it's unclear if Bowers died after falling into the well, or if he did wash up somewhere and confessed, I guess we'll have to wait until It 2 to see if he comes back. As far as all the other important stuff that happened during the final fight between the Losers Club and It, and how that will set up It 2, remember, before It tries its final mind game on Bill by pretending to be Georgie, someone else who was most likely exposed to the dead lights is Stanley, who had that creepy-ass clarinet playing lady attached to his face, but that was actually It. If you recall, in the novel and the miniseries, Stanley doesn't really make it back to Derry as an adult, and I'm sure it'll be once he gets called back to Derry he'll recall staring right into It's dead lights as a kid. But after It changes from Georgie to Pennywise, and gets a hold of Bill and tries to make a proposition to the rest of the losers, It tells the kids, just give me Bill, otherwise you'll all be old next time and I'll drag you back into the weeds. Referring of course to 27 years from now when It awakens again and the start of the It 2 sequel. The other mention of the future is when Beverly admits that when she was in It's deadlights, she saw the losers all back under the Newbolt Street house, but as their parents' age, which would make them all 40, leading them to all make the blood oath to return if It comes back, and the end credits fading to reveal this film is in fact titled Chapter 1, where unlike the novel and miniseries, appears this It will be told in chronological order, where the second film will have minimal flashbacks when the adults were kids. And there's still so much we need to see or need answers to in It 2 that we haven't seen before. Will we ever see Pennywise's nemesis Maturin the Turtle? There were some references in another Stephen King book turned film this year, The Dark Tower, and there were 2 references in this film. One was Georgie's green turtle Lego that Bill drops, and the second is when the kids are swimming at the Barrens, and one of them says they felt a turtle brush their leg. And for the uninitiated, I'm sure you're wondering how the fuck is a turtle the nemesis of a clown? The other questions are, does Bev's decision at the end of the film to kiss Bill even though she knows Ben is the one in love with her mean she is a slut? Or maybe she just has a no fatties rule. Then again, if the gender roles were reversed and it were a dude kissing a bunch of girls, nobody would complain. Will the sequel have a climactic battle of the wills like the novel, or replace the spider from the miniseries with something else? Well, here's everything we know so far about It Chapter 2. The It 2 scriptwriters are already hard at work even though the sequel hasn't been officially greenlit before the film's release date. But with the film expected to make back more than its $35 to $45 million budget just on the US opening weekend, all the writers are extremely optimistic. The director of this It will take the same directing reins for the sequel, and expects the final draft of the script to be completed by January of 2018, with pre-production beginning in March. The title will most likely be called It Chapter 2, and like the first film will have sort of a secret subtitle. This first It film's secret title was actually It Chapter 1, The Losers Club, because it's told from the perspective of the kids, while the second film's secret subtitle is It Chapter 2, Pennywise. So we'll get to see the world through the eyes of the clown, where it comes from, and why its nemesis is a turtle. The director explains how he wanted to have the first film grounded in reality, because everything we know so far about its true form, the Deadlights, is really just speculation. To go deeper into its story as it was meant to be told in the novel would mean interdimensional travel and a lot of the film's budget set aside to the visual effects department. But with the success expected to come with this film, it seems Warner Brothers has given It 2 carte blanche to really visually explain the story like it was meant to be told. Unlike the 90s miniseries, which scrapped the idea of a cosmic dimension altogether. So the second It will be completely different compared to the first. With the It story being truly about the power of friendship and childhood innocence, what we're going to see when the group becomes adults is how the demand and responsibilities of adulthood really changes people. When these kids get older and most of them move out of Derry, they won't have the same friendship or childhood innocence that they have right now. So when they do try to defeat It for the final time in a battle of wills as it happened in the book, it will look completely different than the spider battle in the miniseries. We will get to see the adults enter the cosmic dimension or macroverse, where they will meet Maturin the Turtle, where the turtle will explain how to defeat It in a battle of wills, and how the turtle and It represent the fight for creation, which the turtle represents, versus consumption, which It represents. We'll probably hear the tongue twister of he thrusts his fists against the post and still insists he sees the ghosts again, which both the kids and It said, just proving to see who has the strongest will, which some people don't get, but that's why the whole battery acid scene worked in the miniseries, because only through the power of belief did his medicine become acid, where in this film Bill uses his will to fire the bolt gun into It's head, even though we hear Mike say that the bolt gun wasn't loaded. And the director also said we'll get to see the kids side by side with their adult counterparts, so the same great group of kid actors will return to It 2 in some capacity. As far as Bill Skarsgård, who played Pennywise the Clown and did an excellent job in my opinion, not at all like Tim Curry's version, but still scary, funny, and bizarre. But there's concern the actor won't make it back for a sequel, since he's actually been suffering from a series of disturbing Pennywise-related dreams. And it should be noted that Bill Skarsgård wasn't even in the first handful of actors thought of to play Pennywise, so the producers may go back to some of their original choices to fill the role if Bill can't go, including people like Tilda Swinton and Kirk Acevedo. Personally, if I'm Bill, I would say I'm having these nightmares so I can ask for a serious pay increase, since the film is expected to bring beaucoup bucks anyway. I mean, I'm not saying money fixes everything, but Who ever heard of a sad clown? And that's everything I have for the ending explained of It, and the news and what we can expect from It Chapter 2. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe below, and tell me your thoughts on the film. Also be sure to comment how you think the second film will pan out. Do you want to finally see the turtle in the second film? And what other horror film or films are you looking forward to this year? And don't forget, as always, this is 5 Things Explains Everything with the Fingerbang Show. You'll all float down here, too.